It certainly is, isn't it? Steve, thank you so much for coming on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure, Josh. Thank you so much for having me, man. I was excited to do it.
Awesome. Yeah. So for those of you that I can let Steve do his own intro here in just a minute, but for those of you that are listening and may not be familiar with Steve, Steve has a YouTube channel called Does It Doom, and he puts out educational videos, guitar lessons, gear talk. He reviews pedals. He does all sorts of cool stuff, all within the realm of doom metal music. And he just does great things, and I really wanted to have him on the show, and I'm just so thankful that he's here. So Steve, I'll let you talk a little bit more in depth about what it is you do.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that introduction. As you said, I run the YouTube channel called Does It Doom, as well as all of the other associated social media accounts related to the YouTube channel. And it started out as just a guitar lesson channel, really, where I was trying to do guitar lessons focused on kind of stoner doom and I guess sludge and drone type stuff that I didn't think had really been explored in, I guess, a systematic and consistent way from the same person over time. And I just wanted to take, I guess, the framework that I'd learned from taking, I guess, online guitar lessons over the years and apply it to this genre that I kind of have loved for I don't know, a couple decades. I just thought it would be interesting, and nobody had done it, I didn't think, at the time, at least. And so I kind of pursued it, and along the way, it's kind of gone to places that I never expected it would go. Like we started a pedal company, we were building pedal boards. I got into building guitars, and kind of everything focused on, I guess, that niche of stoner doom. And along the way, we've started a Patreon and a membership, and kind of continue to try to do things that are cool and new and fun, and things that can help people grow and learn as guitar players. And I'm learning all the time still. I think it's kind of an endless journey, and you're never kind of where you want to be with the instrument, and there's always more to explore. So that's a little bit about what I do with Does It Doom, and I guess how it came to be.
Yeah, that's exactly, I mean, all that's exactly what I was looking for. And I'm sure that's exactly what the listeners want to know about too. I want to go back a little bit further though. I'm always interested to know like how people got into this genre of music, because it's not particularly welcoming. It's a little bit aggressive, and it's obviously heavy. And I think the origin story of a lot of musicians that are into this kind of music is interesting. So if you don't mind, let's go back to like,
sure,
the first band, the first show you saw, all that stuff. Like, yeah, let us know a little bit about that.
So I really started playing guitar when I was about 15, because I was obsessed with Nirvana and
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain, right? And that was the time.
Of course, yeah, right.
And so I got a guitar, and I wanted to play a bit, and my parents were awesome. They put me in a school to kind of help me learn, but I don't know, like the teacher, I didn't really gel with them. They weren't really. My buddy and I both started at the same time at the same school, and his teacher was teaching him Nirvana songs, and he was learning kind of what Alice in Chains and things he wanted to. And then my teacher was trying to teach me probably the more correct approach, I guess, or the more textbook approach.
Sure.
But teaching me how to read music and a few simple scales, but just not teaching me what I wanted to know. And I kind of, within 6 months or so, got bored of it and just didn't want to do it anymore. It wasn't fun. And so I stopped. And then kind of into high school, we got into like skateboarding and punk and the Misfits and Minor Threat and Black Flag. For sure. And the Danzig thing was really our big thing, though, like the Misfits, Sam Hain, Danzig, that whole, scene.
Totally.
So then me and my friends, I guess, decided, well, I was like, well, I can kind of play guitar. And my buddy had played drums, like him and I had played, like when we were younger, had like jammed on the Nirvana song stuff. And so we were like, well, we can play, and it was like, well, I can sing, I guess. And, and then I was like, well, I'll teach you how to play bass to another friend. And we started kind of jamming that way and playing covers and writing songs and just having a bit of fun.
And then Sorry,
Yeah.
what year was that roughly?
Um, so that was probably late '90s, I would
Okay.
guess. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there
like
is there
'98.
any recordings? Did you do
Yeah, there
anything?
probably are actually.
Okay.
Like I
All
could
right.
probably dig up somewhere. Like we would rent Tascam 4 tracks from like the
Yeah.
music store and try and like we made like a little demo tape and like I remember reading the manual and trying to figure out how to use this like Tascam
Oh, that's awesome.
4 track or whatever. But then from there, we got into Sabbath somewhere along the way. Like I think it was that the album Nativity in Black. I think it was called NIB. It was a bunch of Sabbath covers.
Oh, I
Um,
actually I don't, but
it was like Pantera was doing Electric Funeral, I think, and
okay.
like I just remember a bunch of like maybe Sepultura doing Symptom of the Universe, Megadeth doing Paranoid, like just
Oh,
a bunch of
wow.
these cool Sabbath covers, and I think like NoFX doing Iron Man or something. I can't remember, but it was through that I was like, well, this Black Sabbath band, these covers are all awesome. I'm like, all these bands seem to like dig this Sabbath band or what Black
Right.
Sabbath or whatever. And so I can remember like going to the store and saving up my money and getting We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll or whatever, the Sabbath compilation record there.
I do remember that one.
Um, and yeah, it had like Children of the Grave on it and it had The Wizard on it, I think, and like Black Sabbath. And um, I was away for that summer when I got that record, and I can remember coming home like ranting and raving, like, "You guys got to check this out." And I thought Iomi's name was Lomi for whatever reason. Like I thought the L was an or the I was an L, and I'm like, "This Tony Lomi, like you got to check. He's amazing." And it was very organic in that way. It wasn't really like pushed upon me. It was kind of like I had discovered this like secret Old Testament,
Yeah.
and through that we kind of all and I'm not saying it was just through me, but I remember going out and buying like the Ozzy Osbourne years, like Black Sabbath the Ozzy years, and some of the records and getting some of
Sure.
the tapes, and we all started to kind of get into it. And so then we started to like kind of play Sabbathy and learn Sabbath songs and write some more songs in that vein maybe, and kind of through that, I don't know. Then I often tell people like the way I got into Sabbath that way. And that was one thing, but like Sabbath is just Sabbath, right? There's,
Sure.
at the same time I was getting into Zeppelin, and it was cool, I guess, because Sabbath was maybe doing the reunion stuff, right? The first
Right.
reunion. So I remember getting like the reunion album when it came out, and getting the Last Supper VHS tape and
Sure.
watching it with my friends like a million times. Um, and so that was kind of neat because they had reformed, and so in the guitar magazines there was a lot about Iommi at the time. Like he was doing
Oh,
a
okay.
column, like
Okay.
writing this column in like Guitar World or Guitar Player at the time, and just so there's a lot of information about Tony, and that was really cool. So I was able to learn a lot of that stuff that way. And then into the 2000s, around 2002, when Down came out with the second record,
Sure.
A Bustle in Your Hedgerow. Again, we kind of all got into that album, and I can just remember during the press releases for that record, Phil and Pepper, they'd interview him and they'd keep talking about Saint Vitus and Pentagram and
Yeah.
Witchfinder General. Like they would mention the Obsessed and
So like
Trouble.
OG, yeah, Trouble
Yeah,
for
and
sure. Yeah.
they were wearing the shirts. Like Bauer would have Saint Vitus shirts on, and or whatever. Like they would all Pentagram. I remember Phil having this Pentagram shirt he was wearing all the time. And so I just started digging in online, trying
Yep.
to find information on these bands and listening to them. And again, like all my buddies at the time, we were kind of all just trying to discover this genre that, and all these bands were kind of
Right.
older from the 80s and stuff, and kind of getting into that, like St. Vitus and Wino, and, just kind of digging into that. I Hate God, of course, like I
Right.
discovered like I Hate God and Crowbar and all the like.
Yeah, that southern sound.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
just like so heavy and so thick sounding. It's
Right.
just
And they would talk about all the original Doom bands. And so you kind of had the sludge group from New Orleans who were all really influenced by these original kind of core Doom bands. And that's what drew me into the whole genre from
yeah,
there.
man.
And then
That's
got into Sleep and,
sure.
Electric Wizard, and kind of started to follow that path of probably the bands that were influenced by the 80s Doom bands,
Yeah, totally.
in the 90s.
I love that. That's like just that going down that wormhole, you know,
Yeah.
like I was just talking about this with another friend just the other day, how we would look at the thanks section in a CD booklet, and like you know, the bands that we really liked. We always wanted to know what our favorite bands were,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's how we would discover things, and it still is how we discover things. It's just like I remember actually Jay Mascis. I heard an interview with him talking about how no one knew who Dinosaur Jr. was, and then Kurt Cobain
Yeah.
wore a Dinosaur Jr. shirt in like a Hit Parader magazine or something, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
boom, they
Yep.
blow up.
That's
And so
it.
it's I love that, and I love that with records too, like crate digging and you know trying to find those
Yeah.
rare records and stuff. I'm just like it's cool to hear your story, because I mean I can definitely relate to it. I'm sure a lot of other people can.
I'm sure a lot of guys from our era, probably, I don't know how old you are. I'm 39.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
36, so
yeah. So
yeah.
similar, right? Like we had the internet, but it was early. There was no real Facebook yet. And,
No.
it was MySpace was the
Yeah.
social network of the day. And there was stonerrock.com though, like, I don't know if you were into that, but
No, I didn't even know about that.
stonerrock.com. And I don't know, I just remember some message boards and things. So there was like some little niche communities online where we could kind of learn a little bit about and discovered, like, I think that's how we discovered sleep, like,
Sure.
because there were already people like worshiping Pike online, and like
Pike worship.
yeah, I mean, it was definitely true. Like, I can remember reading people like being like Matt, like, worship Matt Pike, and like, back in those days. And that was around when Jerusalem first came out,
Yeah.
which was a big, like, there was so much
Oh,
mystery around that record.
yes.
And I
Yes.
say call it Jerusalem because that's what we had, right? We had the green Jerusalem.
Did you get that? Did you have an original press of that?
Yeah, I did not, but one of my buddies did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I would love to. I look on Discogs every now and then, like looking
Yeah.
for them, and I'm like, it's like 200, some like 300 for a copy, and I'm like, man, I really want that record.
It's cool.
Yeah,
It's cool.
that's really cool. But yeah, I mean, you were at that time being involved in those message boards and reading that kind of stuff. We were still playing punk rock and doing like the punk thing, so that was way before. I mean, I wish I would have known about Sleep and about Matt and everything that he was doing, and a lot of those bands. I wish I would have known about him a lot earlier than I did. So it's just cool to hear again your history and how you've been into this for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like around 2002 was when I really started getting into it. And like I said,
Cool.
I saw High on Fire on the Blessed Black Wings tour, I
Oh
believe,
wow.
opening for Danzig. And the timing stands out because we had been into Sleep and kind of just discovered that Matt had this other band
Yeah.
called High on Fire, and they were on, I guess that would already be their third record, had just
Yeah,
come out,
and
so that kind of,
they rip too.
oh
Like
man.
High on Fire is like, whew.
Yeah. I just remember, like, we listened to the record the whole way to the show. Like, I can remember being in the car listening to Blessed Back Wings. We were going to see Danzig, who, like I said, was like our all-time
Of course.
top of the top at that point. But like, we were into the Doom thing, and so we were all pumped to see Matt or see High on Fire. And I think he still had like the green cabs at the time, and it was pretty cool. I could just
That's
remember. I just definitely have cool memories of that night, because it was like I was still in the discovery phase of that band. Like we had just started listening to them. So
Yeah,
that was probably 2005 or 4 or something like that. So.
sure. That yeah, that those are. I mean, the records like what's the most recent High on Fire record that came out? It's
Electric Messiah.
yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
Electric Messiah. Even like I like the earlier stuff a little bit more, but like even that record, like you turn it on and it still rips. Like
Oh yeah,
he still has it and everything. And
it's
of
so
course,
cool that they won the Grammy for it or whatever.
yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. Like you read stuff about Matt Pike and you watch the interviews with him, and you're like, that guy won a Grammy, like because he's been doing the same thing, but he does it so well that
Oh,
everyone
he's
just like
amazing.
everyone respects it so much.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the community and you just know about any like heavy guitar playing, it's like I mean, if you don't know, you should know.
Yeah, yeah,
but most everyone is just like Matt, just like
yeah,
all,
yeah.
all hail, you know?
He's all time. I mean, those first two High on Fire records are just some of the two of the best albums that ever existed, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, the
The
production is amazing. The riffs are incredible. They stand alone, like they're like sped up. And he said it multiple times. It's like sped up sleep riffs. It's
Sure.
like they just, there's nothing quite like it, in my opinion. Like they just, the Billy Anderson production on it. I mean, just it's just amazing. The riffs
Yeah,
are so crazy good, but they are like very doomy riffs or
totally.
stoner rock riffs that are played really fast.
Yeah, it's true.
It's cool.
I actually listened and heard about High on Fire before Sleep.
Oh yeah.
So it was like a little bit, again, it was like that, like reverse order. And I think it was like you were just saying, oh, Matt's got this other band. It was like that, but it was reverse
Yeah, yeah.
for me. And then you go back and listen to Holy Mountain, and then of course Dope Smoker and everything. And then you start digging into the history of the band, and it just like, it gets deeper and deeper and more mysterious. And like,
Yeah.
it's just so cool, like to find
Agreed.
something like that.
Agreed, for sure.
And there's, you know, a ton of bands. Actually, you just did a lesson from Trouble, and
Yeah, yeah.
Psalm 9 record.
Yeah,
And yeah, rest in peace, you know, of course.
absolutely.
That was a really, I like the way, just on a kind of a side note here, I like the way that you did that video, because it was like, it was just really heartfelt. You could tell in your intro that, you know, you really meant it. And I feel like a lot of people like respected that a lot. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
a side
I
note
mean,
on that.
Eric was incredible, right? I mean, he really was one
Yeah.
of the greatest. It was like I saw a lot of really cool comments on that video. Just
Yeah.
like, I mean, that band for me, I can just remember being in a hard Trouble phase, you know, like
Yeah,
just
totally.
like deep into it.
Yeah. Psalm 9 is just like
amazing.
Way ahead of its time.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. The harmonies, I mean, so many people were influenced by what that band did with harmonies, with guitar harmonies, you know.
I read something, I was doing a little bit of digging. This was like, shoot, months. It might have been like years. I don't know if it was that long. Anyways, someone was talking, giving a review of Psalm 9. It was like the top 10 Doom records of all time from this particular website. And in that review, or in that like little paragraph synopsis of it, they talked about how Trouble was opening for Metallica in the 80s, and how, right? It's like the golden age. But as soon as they started to play, Kurt and James ran to the side of the stage and they watched the entire set. And then as soon as they got done, they ran out and wrote down all the settings on their amps. And I don't know how much truth there is to that, obviously, but like the thought of Metallica, of James and Kurt running out to like this relatively unknown band's stage and writing down all the settings on their amps, and then going and recording, I think it was Ride the Lightning that came out maybe a little bit after that, to know that there might have been like a little bit of like a Doom kind of influence, exactly. Yeah, on Metallica. I'm just like, yo, that, I mean, talk about the ultimate tip of the hat.
Pretty cool, for sure.
I hope that story's true. I don't know, but I hope it's true.
The lore, we'll say it's true. We'll go with it. It could be true. It's plausible, for sure, right?
Yeah, I think that like the author of the particular article, like, even named the show, and I want to say it was like in Chicago in the 80s.
There you go.
I'm sure if we did some digging, we could pinpoint
if the show was real. At least
it would have been a hell of a show, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So let's talk about the start. I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
The start of Does It Doom. Just kind of like take us on that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So I didn't want to, the one thing I didn't want to do was teach lessons. I mean, it was funny. I just remember wanting to do something online with guitar stuff. I had been like checking out Gary Vaynerchuk, and, you know, he's like, oh, do your passion, you know, do the whole deal. And I'm hugely indebted to him, because I I really did take a lot of what he said to heart, like, you know, fucking smurf it up. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen
Dude,
his speeches and stuff.
that is so cool to hear that you were listening to him and took it and ran with it, because I've kind of done the same thing.
Good for you, man.
This is it's a side note, but I me and a buddy own a gym now, a CrossFit gym, and that's actually where I'm recording right now. But that was kind of the impetus, was to just follow what you're passionate about, do your own thing, put in the work, and just never
Yeah,
stop. So
100%.
yeah, dude, that's so cool. Continue on,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Likewise, cool. I mean, it's always so I had a buddy like totally outside of any of the music stuff who was
Mhm.
also way into them, and yeah, I just like I said, you know, if you love the Smurfs, fucking Smurf it up. You know,
Yeah.
I just remember that, and it's like, you know, just I guess it's just saying like whatever you're into, just do it, you know, and just go for it. And so I started to make like the YouTube channel. I made my first video in 2015, but it wasn't related to Doom at all. I was doing some demos and had done some amp demos and some
Right.
blues playing throughs and stuff. Um, and I had started the Instagram account and stuff, and had was just doing kind of general guitar, vintage guitar stuff, some blues guitar stuff, and then I don't know. It's someday I was just like, you know, I'd started to move towards the doom stuff a little bit, and my buddy was just like, dude, you got to teach it, you got to do it, because I'm like, nobody's teaching it, like it doesn't even exist, you know.
Yeah.
And he pushed me to do it, like, and was just like, you got to do it, you got to just. And I'm like, well, you know, I guess I'm worried like people are gonna be like, fuck this guy, like, why is he doing this, whatever, you
Sure.
know. And you
Yeah.
still have those like, you know, I guess you're worried about the judgment of others,
Oh, absolutely.
which fades over time, I guess, once you get told you suck enough. But um you know, I just did it. So I had set up my little orange amp, and I like went online and learned how to play, I think, Leagues Beneath. Like in my head, I was like, well, I'll kind of explore some sleep songs that maybe no one's ever tabbed at all. And so, you know, which was a weird way of thinking. I wouldn't necessarily think that way today, but it was like I was going to grab these songs that were more recent, the recent sleep releases, which
Sure.
at the time were the Leagues Beneath and the Clarity. And I'm just going to learn them. I'm going to watch some footage on YouTube, play them
Mhm.
right, like learn them as close as I can to how Matt plays them. And it's like the rhythm stuff I can pretty much do. Like I can never play his solos and stuff like that, but I can
Yeah.
play his rhythm stuff
Sure.
reasonably well, and I can learn songs. I got a decent ear, and with all the live footage available. So I did it. So I put it out there, and people started going nuts. Like, it wasn't like a you suck. It was like a holy shit, keep going, do more, do more. This, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
and you got all this like positive reinforcement. I was like,
Oh,
oh man,
man.
maybe I do want to teach. You know,
Yeah.
maybe I don't. Maybe it's not that bad.
Right.
And so I taught that. I taught the Clarity next, I think, and then people were like, do some High on Fire. So I did Baghdad, and then I did 10,000 Years, and I mean, people just
Jeez.
eating it up, you know. And then people were
Yeah.
like, do different stuff, do Electric Wizard, and so like these were all bands, and it was like, you know, some of these songs I'd learned riffs over the years, and not necessarily correctly, you know, because there was not such a wealth of live footage online or anything like that.
Yeah.
So then I just started to really dive into these songs like deep, right? I would listen to them all week long, and I'd watch all these different videos and try and get it like playing it in the right tuning and all the right positions
Sure.
and as accurate as I could. Because I felt like there was something to that. Like, I don't know, learning from tabs as a kid. You said you're a drummer, and I don't know how much guitar you play, but learning from tabs,
Definitely tabs. Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know, but a lot of times they would be weird. Like, I'm just
Yes.
like, that nobody does that. Like, nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
And I felt like a lot of the times, if you just learn something strictly by ear, sometimes you can really, at least I'd noticed, even in official tab books, there's like weird shit that no one would ever do, you know. And so
Right.
I thought it was interesting to learn from the artist and study what they were really doing and how they played it exactly on stage, and teach things that way. And so I started to doing that. And then really the model that I, throughout the kind of on my ionic journey there over time, I had dove into the blues really deep, like tried to learn Chicago blues, like legit, for a couple years. And I joined a couple memberships online, learning guitar now with John Tuggle's amazing. He's like the best blues instructor there is. And then Anthony Stauffer at Texas Blues Alley. Both those guys are still active and whatnot. And they teach the blues, like Chicago blues. And I love their teaching style. Like, I just loved how they especially John Tuggle on Learning Guitar Now would talk a lot of talk a little bit of theory, but like enough
Sure.
that like you could kind of start to, I learned theory basically from him. And so I tried to apply his approach to start like interjecting at least a little bit of interval theory and scales that I knew that I thought would help people. And so that's kind of the model I went with. And then I got into, people started asking me to demo gear, and
Sure.
just people at like, I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to get some of my like favorite pedals that I think are cool, and I'm going to demo them. And I started doing that, and people love that too, because there wasn't really a lot of that going on. At least there were guys doing some stuff, but not on a consistent basis, and
Right.
not like doing face to camera, where they would actually talk about the stuff.
Right.
And so, just did all that and kind of just kept going.
That's amazing. That's like, yeah, that's just hearing that you started, it was just a friend that was like, yo, you should do this. And
Yeah.
I mean, you nailed it, because there wasn't, and there still isn't anyone that can touch, like, you just like found that niche, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you really went for it. And I mean, it's obviously paying off big time. So
Yeah.
it's just so cool.
I mean, you could see it had to, like the genre had grown, right? And it's like you
Sure.
could see like with like, I think even when I like some of the Facebook groups were smaller at the time than they are now, but they were already like reaching a scale that was like, okay, there's a lot of people. When it felt like in 2005, like it was felt like a
Oh,
very
sure.
small niche community,
Mhm.
and maybe it was bigger than I thought, though, because I remember thinking it was small. But now it's gotten pretty big, and to a large enough scale that there's a lot of people that know what doom metal is.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
if you're into metal, you know what doom metal is now, whereas 15 years ago, I don't know that was true.
I
Um,
would totally agree with that, for sure.
and yeah, so here we are. I mean, like I said, it kind of blew up into all this other stuff that I would have never expected or thought about, even considered.
Yeah, totally. One of my questions was going to be like the evolution of like your product line, because like you are doing pedals now, and you did pedal boards before the pedals, and
Yeah.
there's just all these other add-ons that you do, and you have the Patreon, which is awesome, by the way, and
Thank
like
you.
all the content that you put out there that is like exclusive. Like, I think that one of the first things that I got, you have a PDF that is like doom metal bands tuning, and
Yeah.
it's just like 80 bands or something, and it's
Yeah.
all the tuning. And I was like, this is gold. This is gold. Like,
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
yeah. And I like my good friend Brian, who I've been playing music with him since I was 15 or 16 years old. We're like, we get on the phone and we just like yak at each other about Yob and Sleep and
Yeah.
Ohm, and like all the bands that just like not a lot of people are like hip to,
Yeah.
or even really care about that much, but like me and him just like go nonstop. And so I got that PDF, and I was like, Brian, you gotta check this out. And of course he had heard about you because he's a guitar player, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, that's great, but like this is money right here. So like the next time we went up to play, I brought my kit, and he bought a baritone guitar,
Nice.
which was quite the change, because we were so used to playing in just like standard tuning,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
maybe drop D, like our entire lives.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
to have this, like, to kind of get into this kind of music and actually start to try and like experiment with it and play it
Yeah.
was really, really fun. And so, I mean, like, kid you not, like I had a printout of that guide, and it was like, oh, this is what Mike tunes to, so like we're going to try
Let's
that.
do it.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's
it
amazing.
was really cool. And just, yeah, the kind of stuff you put out on the Patreon page is awesome.
That makes my day, man. I mean, just to
Oh,
hear that it was used in that way,
yeah.
it just makes me happy. I don't know what to say. Like, yeah, I
Oh,
appreciate
that's,
you saying that.
oh yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for putting it all together, because another thing that crossed my mind as I was kind of like preparing to talk to you was like, how do you go and like figure that stuff out? Like, I'm sure there's videos and there's like little things that you can pick up like here and there, but like, how do you figure out because there's all sorts of wild tuning, and there's
Yeah.
all
So
sorts of wild stuff going on.
a lot of it is from like just interviews, like researching interviews and reading where they'll talk about their tuning and their string gauges.
Got
And I just kind of went nuts off the deep end trying to verify everything.
it. Right.
The tunings are somewhat easy because I can go watch a video and pick out the tuning within a couple minutes, or less really. I mean,
Got it.
just
Well, I mean, you do realize that that's kind of like unique, right? Like,
maybe, I don't know.
I don't know if, I mean, I'm not a guitar player, so maybe to me it's just really confusing, but like, I don't know if many people can watch a video and say like, oh yeah, Matt Pike tunes to this.
I mean, it just
Maybe.
depends on how long you've been playing, I think, like,
Sure.
and how well developed your ear is, and like
Sure.
visual. So visually, you quickly tell if they're playing in a drop tuning, and then I'll have a guitar in my hand, and I'll just tune the string, the sixth string or whatever, till I'm hitting pitch at the right fret. So if I see them at the fifth fret, whether it's a typical power chord shape or a single finger bar chord shape, I'll know if it's drop or down, like down tuning, full steps down, or drop tuning as well. And then just pick it out like it. So it doesn't take too long, but again, like some bands tune to multiple, some bands go back and forth between drop, they might be, like, Boris, I think, tunes to A standard, but also drop G sharp. And so some of their songs will vary. But yeah, so a lot was research and a lot, just a lot of that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah. I know that one of the Electric Wizard songs that you just did, I think it might have been, it wasn't Dunwich.
I did Wizard in Black recently, Dunwich, and I did the Electric Wizard.
I think that was it. Was that done? They played that. Did they tune it down when they played it live, or was it tuned lower on the recording than what they do it live?
Yeah, so the live was probably a half step down.
Got it.
Because that recording was in C standard, which is like the rest of the recordings are mostly in B standard.
Mm-hmm.
And at live, they always play in B standard. But for whatever reason, that record was C standard. And some of Dope Throne is like B flat standard. And I figure they were just kind of winging the tuning probably and just ended up some songs in B flat and some in B. But live, they're always in B, except for that first album is all in C. And you could just hear the open six string. Sure. It's just a C note and not a B note.
Yeah, that Dope Throne, talk about another album with a lot of mystique. And
yeah, absolutely. Huge influence, right? Like massive.
Yeah. I was really happy to hear you talk about learning and getting deep into blues, because when I listen to some of that Electric Wizard stuff, and some other doom, like more traditional, quote unquote, traditional doom metal bands, I hear a lot of blues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just can't, I was like, that was one of the things I was going to ask you about actually, because I just can't shake that feeling that like some of these like riffs and some of these like single lines that they're doing are just like, man, it just has such a heavy blues influence.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Wizard stuff, there's a ton of it that just straight up uses the minor pentatonic scale, the blues scale, that flat fifth. They lay on that blue note interval a lot, which is very characteristic of blues music.
Sure.
And then he also plays, some natural minor and Phrygian stuff. But what's cool, especially about Electric Wizard, like there's a clean like blues solo in it. It's like the guitar drops, it's like the Wizard, this is what he said or whatever, and then he drops and does this clean blues solo. Exactly. And Just's live, his lead technique is very much like natural minor blues, pentatonic, blues scale, and I like that a lot. That's like the classic Iommi. Iommi's leads are, especially early on, like up to certainly through probably the fifth, the Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and even Sabotage, like just very blues leads. I mean, he's just playing classic rock leads, kind of.
Right.
And then later he started to play more, I guess, hexatonic scales and stuff like later on. But the first 6 albums that everybody loves, like he's just playing the blues.
Right.
Pretty much, blues scales, or like if there's pre-Sabbath stuff where he's in a blues band and they're basically covering like blues breakers, Eric Clapton songs. What Eric Clapton was doing mid-60s, Iommi's covering in like 68.
There you go. That's fascinating. I did not know that at all.
But that's how I got into it. Basically, that's how I wanted to learn the blues, was I discovered that.
That's awesome. That's like, I mean, that it makes so much sense listening to those records, and yeah, it just like connects the dots a little bit. For me. Yeah.
There's if you go on YouTube, it's under Mythology Pre-Sabbath. It's a full Iommi and Bill Ward blues set from the late 60s. It's
wow.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay,
Like I said,
cool.
they're playing stuff that Clapton would have been playing in the mid '60s, with the
Wow,
Blues Breakers also obviously in the UK. So it's pretty cool.
that is very cool.
I mean, Tony's shredding it. It's amazing. It's like undoubtedly Tony Iommi. It's so fast. It's way faster than anybody was playing at the time. But I guess kind of flew under the radar. Um, Even his lead stuff in Sabbath, a lot of time, I think he was way underplaying what he could actually like play.
Sure.
Technique wise. But
Well, yeah, I mean, having heard that, what you just said, it certainly seems like it. I mean, they just had their style and they
yeah,
just went with it, and
went
I
with it.
mean,
Yeah,
that was, it's it. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Um, so, man, I could talk bands and stuff like
Me
forever.
too.
That I will say, when you did Dunwich, and I was going back through that record, and when the drums come in, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
I listen to the
Sure.
drums a lot. Um, there's a song by. Are you familiar with the Dead Weather?
No.
Dead Weather is I hate to use the word super group because I don't know. Um, it's the guitar player from Queens of the Stone Age, Jack White from the White
Mm-hmm.
Stripes.
Yep.
He's playing drums in it, and they have the bass player from the Raconteurs and the singer Alison Mosshart from the Kills. Um, and the way that they kind of got together was they were all on tour together, and they kind of just decided to get some riffs while they were all in Nashville, and they kind of
Sure.
it was a hodgepodge, kind of the first record, but they have a song called Treat Me Like Your Mother. And that drum beat, as soon as it comes in Dunwich, I'm like, the Dead Weather, like Jack White's drum beat is exactly this. I
It's
was like,
that.
it was exactly. I mean, I don't want to say highly unlikely. It's a direct like rip, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past Jack White to be into a little bit of Electric Wizard.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it was just like, it was just, again, these connections that you start picking up on when you start to really listen to music as you do, and as like me and a couple of my friends do. It's like
Sure.
you can really pick up on these things.
Yeah.
But so I want to, I got sidetracked there, which is totally cool. But I want to go back to the pedals and stuff that you're
Yeah.
doing now. So how did that come about? And tell us a little bit about these like you very unique single knob pedals that you do.
Yes. So it kind of started with my best friend and I decided to do the pedal board stuff together.
Okay.
And he had a wood shop, and um, I had just had this idea, like, let's try to design a Tolex pedal board and build it in your wood shop or whatever. And so we we got together and ran through like Mojo Tone is in Burgaw, North Carolina, who stocks all the Tolex and corners, and like everything we needed was right up the road kind of thing. So we were able to get doesn't matter where they were, but they just happened to be real close. And so we were getting different types of Tolex and different colors and stuff, and kind of built a few different prototypes until we were happy, and then just started kind of building them and started to build 5 and 10 and 20, and people were buying them, and it was really cool. And we built a bunch, and then it got to the point where we couldn't really keep up anymore, just with how much it took. Like, we were both working full-time jobs, and like
Yeah.
this isn't my full-time job, what we do here on Does It Doom. But so like building at night and stuff, there's only so much he could do.
Yeah.
And so we ended up getting that all together and being able to go to Mojo Tone and have them basically manufacture the boards for us.
Wow.
So now
Okay.
everything is done in Burgaw at Mojo Tone now for the pedal boards. And so we were able to kind of go through all that and hand off that whole process. And so that was awesome. And then it was like, okay, well, we got to do something now. And it was like, well, let's do pedals.
Yeah.
And it really came out of the Hyper Coven was you have them all, right? So it's the dirty analog octave.
Yeah.
I really wanted to do that style of pedal because I didn't know of a blendable octave, like Green Ringer style octave effect, which was what they used in the Sun Life pedal kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you couldn't turn it on and off, but you could adjust the blend or whatever. And so I thought it'd be cool to have that effect and be able to run it into whatever you wanted, whether it was your amp dirt or a rat variant or a big muff or a bunch of stacked dirt pedals or whatever. And so we came up with that pedal and decided to build it. And we brought in another. I'm a mechanical engineer. My
Oh,
buddy,
okay.
my best friend's a mechanical engineer, and we brought in a third mechanical engineer who has spent most of his career doing electrical engineering.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so the three of us kind of did that circuit and came up with it. And it sounded awesome. Really happy with it. And so we then used a bunch of like kind of local suppliers to do, like guys we had worked with over the years to do like powder coating, and found a company here to do the printing, and found, guys to do the
Wow.
machining, and built everything here, and
That's cool.
did
For
the one
sure.
pedal, and just kind of thought, well, hey, we got a one knob design. And I was like, well, let's do a boost, a MOSFET boost. Just another kind of just trying to get our feet wet, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
trying
Yeah.
with pedals that I thought would be cool and useful, and that I would want on my rig. And so we did a MOSFET boost. And then it was like, well, everybody takes their crack at the one knob, like, fuzz face meathead style circuit.
Right.
So it was like, let's try that. And so we did that. And then yeah, I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we would made a one knob hyper fuzz? And so we took our crack at that. And like, luckily these guys, the two guys, like the guys I'm working with are incredible, and
Sure.
we've all been friends for a long time,
Yeah.
and we've all worked together. So there's like a good amount of trust, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, but we've pulled a bunch, like it ends up being a pretty big team of people. And we moved our enclosure manufacturing to Obscura Manufacturing, which is just up the road as well. Fortunately, like they already do enclosures for a lot of the boutique pedal companies inside the Doom space. Like they were already doing them for Fuzzlord, and I know he's done some Frost Giant stuff, and so he's like an hour drive. So
Wow.
we've kind of gone to him, and he's doing all the enclosure stuff now, and we do all the circuit design and assembly, and then and kind of circuit assembly and building and final pedal assembly here in Mooresville, North Carolina. So, and there's no signs of stopping that. I guess the one knob thing has been really cool. Like it wasn't initially what we set out to do. Really,
Right.
we're going to do the hyper coven, and then kind of just decided, well, it's going to, all being engineers and whatnot, it's like, well, if we can keep the same enclosure and all the holes in the same spot, well, then we can pop something else in here.
Yeah.
And so people have really liked it. Like, I think there's plenty out there that's complicated, and that you can get the 6 or 8 knob pedals. And what I've found, and a lot of people come and tell me, is that they love that they're just one knob, and that we kind of figure out the tone stack for you, and kind of give you what we think will work for you in this kind of context of doom metal, downtuned guitar and bass. And so, yeah, we've probably got, I don't know, the guys were just here last night. We were running through the final, 5 different prototypes of the next circuit that we've got coming out, and kind of putting our final stamp on that before it goes into production. But it's been cool. We've worked with Earthward Art. Earthward Art has done all of the artwork, and he's been amazing. And so we continue to work with him, and just have, like I said, like a great team of guys, for start to finish, that help with that every phase of the design and assembly. The team is killer. So
sounds like it sounds like you have, like, you're just like in the right, like you being an engineer, and then having a couple friends that also are super into it. It just sounds like the perfect mix. Like you couldn't ask for a better
I couldn't
team.
I couldn't do it without you know what I mean. Like without all those the people that we've got involved. I couldn't, with everything else going on, and just everybody puts a ton of effort into it, and I think the products we've been able to put out have been pretty awesome. And then I've got guitars too. I teamed up with Woodbine Guitars in Canada to do the Woodwright Guitar Series, which is going to be kind of an import series of all of their designs. And Shay at Woodbine is a great guitar builder and designer. And so lots to come from Woodwright as well over the next few years.
That's fantastic, man. Like you said, 2015, who would have thought you'd be making custom guitars, boutique pedals?
Not me.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah,
just not at all. I don't know. And I got, I got a lot of inspiration from Jason Johnson at Fuzzlord on the pedal side of things, like being really close friends with him and watching his evolution from very small to like where he is now, and really growing to be this great boutique pedal company, and kind of like him being willing to share a lot of his hardships and his solutions to problems and how he approached things with me was really helpful as we kind of got the pedal stuff off the ground for sure. I can't really thank him enough.
That's awesome. I should probably reach out to him and see if I can get him on, because his stuff is really, really cool too.
He's awesome. I mean, he's an electrical engineer. He's, he's very methodical, and I think he really does a great job with everything he's done with Fuzzlord.
Yeah. I know from my perspective, someone that is not really well versed in like guitar work or pedal work or anything like that. Like I've been playing drums for 20 years, so it's pretty opposite end of the spectrum.
For sure.
But the simplicity of your pedals is what like drew me to them.
Good.
And that's like, and obviously like all the demos and things that you've done with him, and you've also had what's his name, Eric Marrow.
Yeah, Eric's done some demos for me. The guys
Yeah.
in Witch Pit here in South Carolina, Thomas in Witch Pit has done some killer demos for me. I know Jeremiah Johnson on YouTube has done some really good stuff. Like a lot of guys have been really cool about doing some really nice demo stuff for me.
Yeah, and so like that, hearing it, and then I like, again, when we go up and jam and play, like we always like mix them up and try to like figure out different ways to use them, and eventually like I'll have like my own rig and I can actually use them like on a more regular basis.
Yeah.
But again, just the simplicity of it, and the sound that you get, it was just kind of a no-brainer. I mean, aside from like the wanting to support you and the company, it was just like, this is just like a cool thing to have, because I can't possibly get like, I look at like the like you mentioned the sun pedal, or even the one you just did a review on, the
Architect of
the
Reality.
Architect.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, man, like that's
that thing's amazing.
I'm sure it is. I would love to mess around with it, but like as far as like plugging in and like just getting like a super gnarly tone, I don't think you can beat like a one knob, fuzz, or a boost or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got its simplicity, and then you'd have the other side of the coin where people would want more control over the tone and tone sculpting. And I totally get both sides, right?
Absolutely.
I've got tons of both style,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both fun. It's just I think we just felt like we could lean into something that was different. And that's not to say we won't come out with some multi-knob pedals. I mean, we definitely have prototypes of multi-knob pedals that we've been working on, but there's still this temptation to continue on the path of the one knob and see how far we can take it. We've got some ridiculous, I could say with full certainty, we've got some ridiculous one knob designs in the works that may or may not or not. I shouldn't say, like, I don't know, just because you can do it, should you do it? I don't know. What we're going to try. So it's going to be cool.
That's exclusive. That's an exclusive piece of news right there.
Yeah. Cool.
That's very cool, man. So I can't believe we've almost been on for an hour here.
That's all good.
It goes by so fast.
However long you want, I'm good.
I hope it doesn't. I'll probably go ahead and edit this out, but I hope that it doesn't cut us off. If it does, then we'll just hang out and So one thing I wanted to ask you before we leave, you did a video about a guitar that you bought off of Amazon. It was the 1961 SG.
Yeah.
And then you also had an Orange Crush amp and a little pedal.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really cool video, because you were basically saying like, you can get all this stuff for under $500 and you can get started.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, as someone, again, as a drummer that is really wanting to get into playing more guitar, more doom, what kind of setup would you recommend for someone that's just getting into it?
Yeah, I mean, it always depends on budget, right? But I do think it's hard to go wrong with what you can get from the Epiphone line for the amount of money you have to pay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got in my guitar rack back there, I probably Mm, I guess, yeah, I've got three Epiphones sitting in there, three Epiphone
Wow,
SGs. I've got another two Epiphone guitars. Like I've got plenty of Epiphone. I've got high end guitars, but I still play those Epiphones a ton.
that's great.
And I think as long as you get it set up for the right tuning, and make sure the nut slots are correct, are cut correctly, and you're using the correct string gauge, meaning you got the appropriate string tension, so you're not like coming out of tune all the time, and your nut
Sure,
slots are cut correctly. I mean, anything to me, I would go humbuckers or P90s most likely. I wouldn't go with Strat pickups, but you can. But I'm just saying for a more typical setup.
sure.
Um, yeah, that gold SG is one of the coolest looking guitars I've ever owned, and I paid $320 and I bought it off Amazon.
Yeah,
Um,
that video was super cool.
yeah, I mean, and I bought the Mosky Black Rat, which was like a $20 clone of a rat, which sounds good, sounds like a rat. I mean,
Yep.
is it identical? Probably not. Does it matter? No. I mean, I have tons of variations of rats. None of they're, some are based, some are supposed to be a clone, some are not, but they all have that characteristic rat tone. And then, yeah, I had a Crush amp, which is a fine amp. I have one here.
Yep.
We all through the pedal shop, everybody in our pedal shop, we bought them little Crush amps to use for all the bench work and stuff. And
That's
so,
so cool.
I mean, I still use those amps. They just came out with that Super Crush head, which is a new solid state. You're always gonna. I feel like most of the time a solid state amp's not going to quite have the overall depth and tone of a tube amp probably,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
is anyone in your audience going to really notice? I don't really, I mean,
Yeah.
probably not so much, and there's plenty of bands who've toured on solid state amps for a long time. So it's definitely a cheaper way to get into it. There's guys who are making really cool stuff like Hillbish, making really cool solid state amplifiers that are affordable. But I guess the amp ends up being the more expensive piece because I would just get an Epiphone guitar. I would get a bunch of clone dirt pedals, or cheap, reissue dirt pedals, stuff that's in the sub 60. And I usually tell people get a Behringer Super Fuzz SF300. It's $30. Get an Electro Harmonic Screen Russian reissue used is like $60. Get a Rat used at $60. And, you've got three pretty foundational Muff, Rat, and Super Fuzz dirt pedals that are going to certainly
Right.
get you started in the genre. And it's not too hard to put together a rig for if you're going to do, depending on the amp, like I said,
Sure.
depending how much power you want, but to just get started, you can get started with three cheap dirt pedals that sound good, an Epiphone SG, and like a little Crush amp for like $500. So
That's
um,
awesome.
just getting the guitar set up, making sure it's in the right tune. Like, because if you just take your guitar that you get with nines on it, string gauges, and tune it down to B, like it's not going to be good.
No.
So I usually tell people like, take your guitar, read my tuning guide, and if you need a recommendation on where to start for whatever tuning, I can give you that, and
Sure.
go from there. But yeah, I think just starting, right? We all
Mhm.
evolve our gear over time, and I think it's more about just getting started.
Totally.
So
Totally. That's great. That's great recommendation. Um, so a question that I've mentioned my buddy Brian here a couple times. So he actually specifically, he was like, you should ask him this question. I'm like, all right, I'll ask him this question. So his question to you is, back in like the early 2000s,
yeah.
late 90s, I guess, a lot of guitar players that were playing heavy music were really looking to use the head to drive their overdrive sound, like
Yep.
JCM 800s, dual Rex, stuff like that. And now it seems like a lot of people are going to the more boutique pedals to tag on to like a clean, maybe not a clean channel, but kind of how do I
Yeah, like a pedal platform style, like
yeah,
not running like you're saying, a lot of guys were basically using boosts or like an overdrive
exactly.
to push their tube amps to get most of the tone from the
E-
distortion of the amp itself.
yeah, exactly. Do you feel like that's like an accurate kind of like statement about like
Yeah,
kind of
it's
the the changing of the tides as far as like guitar work goes right now?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's evolved and moved in that direction, and you can kind of see why. I think, kind of looking at the evolution of things, and looking at some of those most influential records. I think because for the longest time, as you said, like even if you look at like early interviews from the early 2000s with Pike in High on Fire, he was still just using amps and like maybe an MXR distortion plus, or maybe nothing, maybe just a delay pedal. And then you kind of saw it, he's got a huge pedal board now, right?
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you go look at his rig rundown from like 2006 or 8, like
Oh,
you'll see he was using nothing, I mean,
yeah.
just amps. And that's still an awesome tone, but I think like Electric Wizard on that Dope Throne record used that super fuzz,
Right.
or hyper fuzz, I guess, the mode 2. And even Sleep on Dope Smoker like used a big muff on one of the guitar tracks. And I think those albums kind of influenced people, and others as well were using fuzz pedals. But even like I think a lot of bands were just using a simple, very like a SD Boss SD1 Super Overdrive, or like there were bands using Rats, like obviously Sun has used Rats forever.
Sure.
And so there were, but I think over time, as social media has exploded and boutique pedal companies have popped up, and all of these pedals are available online, you just have all of this access to these like different tones and textures, and like you can have different dirt tones. And I still think most like big, most touring bands, I think the guitarists are still using like a main dirt tone. It's like they don't have like 6 different dirt pedals and are kicking them one on and every other song. Like most guys pick the core of their dirt sound, I feel, but there are just a plethora of options at this point. And so it's hard to just not experiment, because it's just fun.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess, there's so much available, and all these different takes on these classic circuits and new circuits. And I just think with the all of it at your fingertips and on Reverb, and all these pedal companies just putting out all sorts of cool shit.
Yeah.
It's just
Reverb's a dangerous site.
It is. I do my best to not fuck with it too much these days.
Yeah. So that's exactly, I mean, that's a
right. Isn't that how it evolved for you guys? I mean, you're saying you've played with him since you were 15, you said, right? Which is awesome. Actually, I would love to play with my buddies from when I was 15.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's like, right, probably gone from using basically nothing to like,
oh yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I watched his setup, evolve from, just basic tube combo amps, all the way up into, I mean, now he's been playing a 5150 too for quite a while. But he's also got like, he had a Fender Basement at one point. But his pedal board, for a while, it was just like an A/B switch to just switch it, basically the drive on or the drive off, and like that was it. And that's basically what we used for, I mean, a lot of our younger years. But now, yeah, man, I mean, he's got, I can't list them off. I know he's got like 2 Fuzz Lord pedals. He's got like a couple different delay
a full
pedals.
board though, right?
It's a full board. Yeah, exactly. I think part of that, this is funny too. We talk about this also, being a drummer, and we're older now, and now we can afford to get the stuff that we really want.
Yeah.
But we're not playing like out
at
all. So it's really just, we're all like in our own heads about it, and we just want to tweak and, like you said, experiment because we can. And it is really fun. And it was just him bringing that question up. I was like, I couldn't think of a better guy to ask, about that, because we kind of feel that way, but it's like, you are going to
I mean,
what we're talking about.
It sounds like our opinions on it are the same. It's just kind of an evolution and explosion of a market and awareness of all this stuff, and more and more bands using it, I think, breeds more and more I guess people wanting to use it or explore those tones. And
definitely,
a certain band has, at least for me, I'm always curious what some bands are using, or what, how they achieved a certain tone. And then you're always naturally just curious to see, well, what can I try that or a variation of that or
Right. And then you have, you know, YouTube channels like yours and
Sure.
Jason's where it's like, oh, like that is what Matt Pike used.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and you do the demo and you like tweak it and it's like the setting wasn't here. It was probably more in like this range. And it just like the amount of information that's just at your fingertips now is just
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Like back when we were like 15 and 16 years old, you know, I can't imagine having the kind of resources that we do now. It would just be unbelievable.
Yeah, it really would, right? Like it just wasn't quite there yet. Like
No.
it was still a
Mm-mm.
bit early. We missed it by 15 years or something.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, we talk about that all the time. Just like, you know, I look at different drum reviews and gear reviews and it's like instead of I would do the same thing watching a drummer play. I'd be like try to figure out like what cymbal that is or what
Yeah.
kind of snare that is and you know just either just memorize it or you know go look for it online later. But now it's like there's these videos that are high quality audio. The video is really good and you can just see
They're
exactly
showing
it's
you
like
exactly what it is, telling you
yeah
all about it, everything
yeah
you need to know.
yep
I guess
everything.
something always in the back of my head is I try to make my lesson videos like what I would have wanted to watch when I was 15.
That's yeah
That's kind of what's in the back of my head. Like, what would I want this dude to show me?
sure. That's
When I
very
know nothing or barely know anything.
yeah totally. That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So uh Steve, this has been, gosh, I feel like we could probably talk for
Yeah.
a lot longer.
That's how these things usually go. You
Yeah,
usually end up
yeah,
having a
totally.
good time. We both,
Yeah.
I guess, like the same stuff. So,
Yeah, this is, again, thank you. So I can't thank you enough, man.
yeah, man, I was happy. It was a really
This was
fun time.
so cool. One more time. I know we talked about your stuff, quite a bit, but one more time, like lay it out there for everyone. Where can they find you? What can they do to support you? All that stuff.
Yeah, check us out, youtube.com/doesitdoom for all of the video lessons and demos and gear talk. And of course, you can check us out at doesitdoom.com if you want to get your hands on any of our pedals or pedal boards or check out the Woodwright guitar line. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and any really social media platform at Does It Doom. And if you're wanting to dive a little deeper and hang out with me a little bit and check out all of the tablatures that we do and transcriptions and a little bit of a deeper dive into all of the lessons and whatnot, you can check us out at patreon.com/doesitdoom.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and for those that are for whatever reason would be on the fence about that, I would highly recommend you do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, because the content is just it's just awesome. Like if you think the YouTube station is good, like check out the Patreon.
Thank you. I appreciate
for
it.
sure. So
More to
Steve,
come.
man, what's that?
More to come.
More to come.
Every
I love
month,
it.
man.
I love it. I love it. So, well, thank you so much again. Wish you the best.
Yeah,
And
Josh, thank you.
yeah, dude, absolutely. So, have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too, man. Really enjoyed it. Have a good one.